Welcome to the Align and Abide podcast with Dr. Kim Tran, where we help you achieve your greatest God-given potential. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hey, it's Dr. Kim Tran. I host the Align and Abide podcast, where we explore ways to elevate your life through holistic health and wellness, personal development, and entrepreneurship. Together, we'll uncover how you can invest in your greatest asset, your health, and achieve your God-given potential. Past guests have included Pastor Marsha King of For the One, along with Dr. Charles Kruku of the Hub Church, along with Pastor Jumi of Christ Family Kingdom Center. This episode is brought to you by Minnesota Family Chiropractic, a Christian chiropractic and integrative health clinic founded and led by Dr. Kim Tran, dedicated to helping patients find lasting relief and vibrant health through chiropractic care, nutrition, functional medicine, acupuncture, and inner healing prayer. Minnesota Family Chiropractic is on a mission to transform lives physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Our team of doctors focuses on whole person care to address the root causes and not just the symptoms, so you can get back to living fully. Ready to start your path towards better health? Visit drkimtran.com or call 612-545-5672. So before introducing today's guest, I want to give a big thank you to Pastor Marsha King for introducing not only just myself, but the entire team at Salem Media to Coded in Love, who hosted 3,000 Acts of Kindness. And if you remember, Pastor Marsha King was on in November, right before you guys hosted 3,000 Acts of Kindness, which is, I think what was so amazing was not only to see Salem Media, which many of you don't know how involved they are in our local community and how involved they are in with the state, but to see not only our team show up from our chiropractic clinic, but also the team from Salem Media show up at 3,000 Acts of Kindness, which is such a huge deal. So Danielle, I am just so glad that you are here. You are the founder of Coded in Love, and could you just share a little bit about your background with us?
Thank you for having me. By the way, I love the opening of your show, and I'm excited to be here. My background. Okay, well, I guess God was preparing me for this entire thing along the way, and I had no idea. My background is really nothing to do with what I do now. But I was working for ABRIA. It was a pregnancy resource. It is a pregnancy resource center. And I remember when I met with the lady who runs the ABRIA, and we went to coffee, and I was there to ask her for coats. And she said, Danielle, the Holy Spirit's telling me that you should come work for me. And I'm like, oh, the Holy Spirit didn't tell me that, but we can pray about it together. So she's like, well, I need an answer by tomorrow. And so I remembered praying all the way home and going and sitting on my bed, and my Bible was there, and I opened it up to Jeremiah, and it said, you will work with women who are pregnant or in labor, and you will lead them to me by still waters. And I was like, God, this is what you want me to do? But so I accepted it. But in that position, I learned development. I learned how to plan a gala. I had all these skills that I didn't know I was going to need, but God knew. So that's what I was doing when God gave me the bigger vision of all of this.
So how did you get your vision? And this is such a beautiful story. Pastor Marsha King had bought a table for your gala for Coded in Love. And she was like, Dr. Kim, I want to invite you in. And I was like, absolutely, I will show up.
Thank you for being there.
And you had this amazing video. It was so touching, where you actually say, many of us can be just one step away from being homeless.
That's right. It's true. A paycheck away, right? A breakup away, a divorce away. It's closer than I think people realize. You know, how people can fall into experiencing homelessness. Like the night you were there, one of our guests had a house fire. She had a house. The house burned down, right? So, and she also shared with us that night, you and I were just talking about this, that the people that you see on the streets are only 5% of people experiencing homelessness. You don't see the people who live in their cars, who live in hotels, who are couch hopping. Like, there's a whole community out there of people who are experiencing homelessness.
Now, would you share a little bit about your story background? Because I know you've had an experience because you gave money to somebody else that was homeless, right? And I think what we want to do today is truly just break through some of our own thoughts about homelessness too.
Yeah.
This is really the part of this too, but can you share that story?
Absolutely. So this is God's story. This is how God opened my eyes to people experiencing homelessness. So I was downtown Minneapolis one day, and a gentleman who was experiencing homelessness told me he was hungry and asked me for money. And of course, I don't want anyone to go hungry, and I have some money, and I gave him money, and I walked away. But I thought, oh my goodness, I forgot something in the mall. I turned back around and I saw him as I was walking down the block, standing with a group of people, counting a wad of money and laughing. And I was so angry. And I tapped him on the shoulder and I just said, excuse me, you told me you were hungry. You lied to me. And I want my money back. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, really, I want my money back. He gave me back my money, but what he took from me was my willingness to ever want to help anybody experiencing homelessness again. And so I walked away with a hardened heart. But as God would have it, a few weeks later, I was at an outdoor cafe in downtown Minneapolis with a friend of mine, and another man walked up to me and he said, listen, I'm really hungry. Can you help me? Every bone in my body wanted to say no. My mind was screaming no. The Holy Spirit was screaming, give him the money, give him the money. I opened my wallet and I gave it to him. And as we were walking back to our car, I saw the man across the street carrying groceries, and he had done exactly what he said he was going to do. And God really convicted me at that moment that I wasn't to be the judge and the jury. I was to be obedient.
And I think there's so many times where people talk about wanting to help, but yet we never extend an outreach. We expect somebody else is going to do it. And that is such a difficult thing. And many times people are homeless, and I think back to the story. And I've actually been sharing this with so many of my patients as to why, because they know that we actually sponsor nonprofits as part of what we do. So when new patients come in, our first thing is we donate back. And so I was sharing this story about the woman, and I said she was sharing her story about she owned a home. She had a fire in the middle of winter. So the insurance covered that part. They're like, okay, we'll cover the fire. Well, many of you know, in the middle of winter, if you don't have the heat on, so now she has no electrical, she has nothing, the pipes broke, and what they didn't cover was the water damage, because now they're like, oh, sorry, we're not going to. And many of us don't have that much money sitting back to say, okay, if there's water damage, now I've got to fix this part. And they were like, well, here, we'll cover a hotel. So she was living at a hotels at the time until all of a sudden the money runs out and the insurance wasn't paying. Right. And that's how you guys connected with her, because you guys were out meeting her.
So Angelique, I remember the day we met her, and she had come in to 3,000 Acts of Kindness. And at the end, this was the first year we started. So we didn't know what we didn't know. We didn't know how much work it was going to be to tear it down. And the board and I were there really late. And here is Angelique helping us to the bitter end. And it's like 7:00 at night. And so we talked to her. We're like, wow, thank you. And she said, no, thank you. And she started to share her story. And Angelique is one of our volunteers, and has been all throughout the year. She comes to the warehouse. She brings her grandchildren. She gives back. She understands what it means to give back to people who are experiencing homelessness.
Absolutely. And if you are interested in learning more, you can actually go to codedinlove.org. Again, that's codedinlove.org. Hey, it's Dr. Kim Tran, and I'm back with Danielle from Coded in Love. And I'm just so glad to be able to share your story because, when we talk about reaching back to our community, the biggest thing that I've always mentioned is we can travel anywhere else in the world, but the biggest people that we need to minister to right now, and many of you know this, is in our own state, in our own city, in our own backyard. It's our neighbors.
That's right.
And
All around us.
yeah. And the thing that I will tell you about Coded in Love is you can actually show up at their event in December and know that everything that you give is getting returned back to the community. And I was there with my team member. We were bringing in coats, and I was trying to reach out. I'm like, is it too late? Because we kept getting donations in from our patients. So we were coming in, dragging in all these winter coats, and people saw us with bags because at the time when we were walking down the road, people saw us walking with bags of coats and hats and everything else that people kept donating. And I thought, oh, are we going to be too late? Because we're showing up around lunchtime at this point. And in the process, and I love Pastor Marsha King for this, because she's always like, okay, God's going to highlight to you somebody, and you're just going to have to pray. And I was like, all right. So as we're walking, it's freezing cold that day because it was in the negatives. And so we're like bundled up while we're trying to. But this is why it's even more important why you guys are cleaning out your closets, right? Cleaning out, we know where it's going. But as we're going, my team member who's like freezing, we're getting stopped along the way. And so I actually was handing out coats as I went and praying over people while I was walking to the convention center. And here she is, she's like, and because so somebody else had left, and she's like, there weren't any coats left in my size, not a problem. I was like, what do you need? What do you got? And I was handing her a coat, and I was asking her, okay, what do you need us to pray for you about? And she's like, I've just been suffering with addiction. Okay. And I said, well, what did you go through? And people will start to open up and share through their traumas. And I just want you to think about that. Everyone, they didn't wake up one day when they were kids and like, you know what, God, I want to be homeless.
That's right.
I want to be an addict. I want to go through some sort of trauma. Like they went through a trauma that was so traumatizing, and they ended up down this wrong path.
First, I need to say thank you for those coats, because every year we have run out of coats by noon, and we still have hundreds of people in line. Some of them with sandals on, some of them with sweaters on or sweatshirts. So thank you. Those coats are so important, and they stand in line a long time for those coats. So thank you for that. And there's so much that goes into people experiencing homelessness. Everyone's story is different. There's so many different stories, and trauma is definitely one of them. Each person that walks through that door is somebody's baby, was somebody's baby, and had their whole life ahead of them, right? No one wants to end up addicted to drugs or not having a place to live. But what we all need on this path called life are people who care. A lot of us have family that we can turn to, and if we need something, a lot of people experiencing homelessness don't. And they're in this world where they feel like they're in this world alone, right? And so if they can come there and one of the things that people experiencing homelessness say to me a lot is that they don't feel seen. People walk right over them. They don't look them in the eye. Some people go a week without their name being called. And so that day, you as a buddy that comes beside someone experiencing homelessness, that's important. That's important to them. And it's important to God for us to see them. So,
which is so huge. And now with everyone spring cleaning out your closets or getting rid of stuff. Right. And I was just asking Danielle about this. I was like, well, when can people start donating winter items?
Yes. We can donate right now. We have a a warehouse in Plymouth at Knowledge Computers. And it's open Monday through Friday, and you can find that on our website as well, the address and everything. But you can drop off coats, and we take new or gently used. And so when we say gently used, we think you would wear it if you still wanted it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
so-
Like, please do not bring something dirty, please.
Because I realize gently used means something different to everyone,
Uh-huh.
but we want it to be, nice and clean, and maybe you've outgrown it or your kids have outgrown it, or we will certainly take it.
Yeah. So what other items are you looking for? So that way people know when they're cleaning out their closet, what else
Yes.
can they give you?
Yes. Okay. Winter boots, all sizes. This year we are adding a bigger kids section, so we could use kids' coats, boots, clothes for men, women, and children. Bigger sizes seem to go really fast for men. The 1X, 2X, 3X, 4X sizes. So sleeping bags, that's another thing that we could use, that we can use. Our backpacks. Just, if you think about that, you would need it if you were dropped off, and what would you need to survive, and how would you want it to look? And there's somebody out there that I'm sure needs it.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. So while you're cleaning out, you can go to coatedinlove.org,
Yes.
and there is a warehouse facility. So you can start dropping off all those winter items that you needed to clear out anyway.
Thank you. Someone can use them. You'll make
Yes.
someone very happy.
Yeah, because when I tell you this is not just a small event, you have it at the Minneapolis Convention Center. It is huge and so well organized.
Thank you. It takes a village.
I mean, there are prayer tables set up. There are people washing feet. There are other people going through and giving haircuts.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, when I looked at how well organized, plus you have so many other organizations there that are trying to help empower people, give them direction, tell them what to do as well.
Yeah, it is quite, I have to say, after that experience with the two men experiencing homelessness, God put it on my heart that I needed to do something with people experiencing homelessness. So Coated in Love started. And as Coated in Love, we would go to shelters and we would set up a free store for kids and give away coats, hats, mittens, and maybe backpacks. So I did that for 9 years. And on the 10th year, I was driving down the street and God said to me, I want you to introduce and reintroduce people experiencing homelessness to me. And this is how I want you to do it. And gave me this vision. And I thought, no, like I made that up.
There's no way. God didn't give me that one, right?
Who else is in the car? He couldn't possibly be talking to me. But so I was like, in the vision, I saw a gentleman's hand from his arm to his or his elbow, and I saw the carpet of the floor, right? And I kept thinking about this, and I thought I couldn't get it out of my head. I'm like, God, is this what you really want me to do? I'm not equipped. So I prayed my way through it, and ended up I picked up the phone, called the convention center, and they said, okay, you can come down and see it. We have a space. It's $18,000. I'm like, I don't have 18. What? I'm like, God, you send me out here and you want me to pay $18,000? I don't have it. So anyway, she said, you can fill out a grant. I filled out the grant, and she said, congratulations, now you owe $11,000. I'm like, no, I don't have that. So I had a number in my mind, and I prayed that weekend, and she called me Monday, and she's like, Danielle, we're going to give it to you for this number and this amount. And it was exactly what I had prayed to God for. So she said, come down, see the convention center. And I'd never been there. She opens up the door, and the carpet that was in my vision was the same pattern in the convention center.
Wow.
And I knew, I'm like, God, here we go. I had no idea what it was going to look like. You talk about the size. the original room was the ballroom, and I thought there is no way. Like this is a ballroom.
Oh,
So
yeah.
right now we're in the expo hall, which is like
Right.
8
Huge,
ballrooms
right?
in one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you want me to take this room and fill it with people that, like, God, how is this going to happen? So I say all that to say what I had in my hand was obedience and prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And once I said yes, God did the rest. It actually, the things I have seen, God, the doors that flung open, the people that he started to put in front of me, he did all the work. Yes is the key.
Yeah.
Is the key.
I was just sharing that at the Women's Summit that I was speaking at over the weekend over at Christ Family Kingdom Center.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, in the process of waiting, God is going to tell you to be obedient to do some things that you're like, are you, what? No. Like, are you sure? And then, but the fun thing about that is when you say yes to God, wow, like he will deliver greater than your vision even made it.
Exactly. And you have the blessing of seeing him on a whole different level.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Absolutely.
I'm like, I have a front row seat to this. What a blessing. Oh my
Absolutely.
goodness.
So as you are cleaning out your closet and getting, and you're like, okay, I've got a lot of winter clothes, whether it's for your kids, maybe you're everyone else that's outgrown, go to codedinlove.org and you can find out where to donate. That's codedinlove.org. Hey, it's Dr. Kim Tran, and I'm back with Danielle Igbanugo.
Yeah, very
Yes,
nice. You
good.
did it.
I did it. Okay. I'm getting really good about Nigerian and especially after speaking at the Women's Summit. I'm like, okay, new name, let's go.
It took me a while to be able to pronounce my own last name. So you're doing really good.
So for many of you, you want to reach out, you want to change your community. One of the biggest things that I'm going to encourage you to do is minister to your own community. We want to reach out. We want to help out everyone else in the world, but there are people starving, they're homeless, and sometimes it's just in your own parking lot. Many of you know the story, and I was sharing this with Danielle. Sometimes when God asks you to do something, you're like, really, God? There was a homeless woman that was in the parking lot of where I work, my practice, and I just am there all the time. So I know which cars are whose. And I was like, there is something. And I would come out and I would see her sometimes sleeping in her car. And I was like, is that who I think it is? But maybe she is. Maybe she's not living out of her car. Maybe it was just somebody else. We've got condos around us as well. But I'm like, nope, pretty sure she is. And I had my office manager, Joanna. I was like, Joanna, I know she's Spanish speaking. So can you go knock on her window? Because it's so cold. It's the middle of winter. Could you imagine sleeping out at your car in the middle of winter and you want to conserve so much money that you don't even turn on your car? So the fact that she could even survive in negative temperatures in her car is such a God thing. And she went out, knocked on the door, and I said, why didn't you invite her in? And I said, give her some coffee, give her some water. And God, and I heard God say, okay, you got that extra room in your house, open your house. And I was like, okay, God. I was like, all right, God. Well, because I wanted to ask her, I'm like, okay, she's like, I don't do drugs. I don't even drink coffee. Danielle and I are going to tell you that we just drank coffee this morning. No, we are. But she was like, nope, don't do this. Don't do that. That she had just been in a hard time living in her car. And I said, well, why aren't you going to a shelter at night? Because I said, well, there's the Catholic Charities. And I want to share this with you because I want you to understand the reality of this is sometimes when they go to shelters, and this has nothing to do with the Catholic Charities here in Minnesota. She was actually at a charity out in California, and she said they just treated us like we were criminals, like we were going to steal, but yet they were both working. They just didn't make enough to pay for the down payment for an apartment or a home. And So that's how she ended up in this string of things where she's been living out of her car for so long. And what she needed was a safe place to go. And she's like, are you going to care if I'm in and out? And I'm like, and I'm in and out of my own house. So, and I remember my brothers, I will tell you, bless their hearts, because I was like, yep, God told me we need to help this woman. And they're like, if that's what God told us to do, we're going to do it. Open-hearted, no conditions. And I know that you mentioned that with another person that you've met recently.
Yes.
She did the same thing.
She did. She went out on a limb. And now the young woman and her 2 kids she was able to get her into a program and get her on her way. And that's the power of seeing someone. That it really is. You could have never knocked on her window, and all she needed was someone to see her and to help her. And that's what you're doing. And she's a great house guest.
Yeah, right. The dogs love her.
We were talking about that earlier. So yes, it's just to see people. I don't know how much I can stress, but whatever you can do, and God puts it on your heart, I encourage you to do it, because God doesn't make mistakes. And if you ignore his voice, then you've made the mistake.
Yes,
So.
absolutely. And it was interesting. We were at church. They were talking about this in Matthew chapter 9, verses 35 through 38. The workers are few. So it states this. So Jesus went through all of the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers to his harvest fields." And that harvest that God is calling you to is in our city. I think many of us want to start complaining, oh, look at what's happening to Minneapolis, St. Paul, but you can change it. You can change what has happened to Uptown. You can change what's happened to downtown by just showing up. And there's so many great organizations that if you're like, all right, well, I want to help out with the homeless, but I'm a bit scared.
If this is your first time, and this happens to, I think a lot of our volunteers have had the experience, right? They're coming from a place where they don't have a lot of proximity to people experiencing homelessness. They're not quite sure what that looks like. But I guarantee you, if you come to volunteer at 3,000 Acts of Kindness, first of all, you'll feel the Holy Spirit. The entire place has been prayed over and is being prayed through all day, and people are being prayed over, and you will see people experiencing homelessness and people who are there to be kind and to show them that they matter. And in kindness in an environment always wins. There's so many I was telling you earlier, people give their life to Christ. People sit down, even after they've gone through and gotten everything they need, they sit down and have lunch and listen to, we have Teen Challenge there that share testimonies of how they were able to get out of homelessness, or we have a Christian band there that plays, and you see people talking and hugging and laughing and crying and just being people together. And so it's really, I encourage you, and if you go to the website codedinlove.org, there is a video of a short video, 2 minutes of last year's event, and you will see exactly what I'm saying. It gives you a glimpse of what it's like to come down and join us. So please, I encourage you to come down.
Now, did you have your volunteer sign up yet, or when does that come up?
That opens in August. We have, so this year we have some new stations that we're getting. I told you we're expanding the kids station. We also noticed that there are a lot of pets, people experiencing homelessness. Their pets are their family. And so we want to expand make a bigger pet station so that they can get boots and sweaters. They live outside as well. The pets do. And And so we're just adding some things this year. And so we're going to get it all together and put it on the website for August and have you start to sign up.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely want to do that because I know it's such a phenomenal opportunity to be able to go out and share with people. Actually, I was telling her, so yesterday, my team, knowing this, because I said, hey guys, this is what we're going to do this year. And for any of you who've actually been in my clinic, you know Mondays is a very busy day. It is a very busy day. And I said, here's what I want us to do this year. We are going to shut down our clinic on Monday so we can all show up and do what we do best, which is pray over people. We're going to offer chiropractic. We're going to do acupuncture. And I even have team members who are like, they'll massage, they'll wash people's feet.
Wow.
And they're like, if I have to wash feet, I'll do it. They're like, and it's not even a have to, they want to.
And that is the spirit of our volunteers. And that's what makes 3,000 Acts of Kindness so special. That heart, that willingness to serve others is to serve people experiencing homelessness. So yes, bring you and your team. I love it.
Yeah. And they're just like, they were so pumped up because they just know we have just such a heart for giving back. And the fact that we would actually shut down our own clinic, this is how important this, with what you do, how important it is for us in our community is I would rather shut down to make sure our entire team can show up, that we can have people from our own practice show up. So that way it allows them that opportunity to do what we do best, which is serve our community and show up.
But yeah.
Because sometimes, God will ask you to say, yep, yes, I'm going to do that. But the other part is showing up and actually doing it.
That's right.
So many of us will commit to something, we'll say we believe in it, but sometimes you think, oh, it's just easier for me to give some money. I will tell you, there's something you can do, even if it's just as simple as being one of their prayer volunteers.
Mm-hmm. Yes. We could not do this if people didn't get up and come downtown and volunteer. It takes a village. It takes the community to serve. And yes, there's so many opportunities. If you like to pray, if you want to wash feet, if you want to give away coats, if you want to sit down and have lunch with someone and be a buddy, if you know how to cut hair, if you want to work at the welcome desk, there are so many different opportunities to come down. So I'd encourage you, whatever you like to do, I bet you can find it at the Thousand Acts.
Or we can make it happen.
Or we can we'll find a spot for you. Yes.
Yeah, because I just watched the difference of a haircut or getting a beard trim or getting a mustache trim. It completely changes people.
Yes, it does.
It changes their outlook. And, for people to even have access to a shower is a night and day difference. So if you're looking to volunteer or just put it in your calendar and say, okay, August hits, you got to start volunteering over at codedinlove.org and make sure to donate all of your winter goods, stuff for your pets, kids, over at codedinlove.org. They actually have their warehouse right in Plymouth.
Yes.
So it's easy.
Yes. Thank you.
Hey, it's Dr. Kim Tran, and I'm back with Danielle Igbanugo.
Very good.
Coded
you are
in
getting
love.
better and better
I know.
as the hour goes on.
Like my other Nigerian side is coming out.
You're going to have to teach me how to say it at the end of this.
I know. Well, I was like, thank goodness for the women over at Christ Family Kingdom Center, because they're like, all right, since you're speaking here, you got to start. And they're like, do you have, I was like, I actually own African clothing already. They're like, really? I was like,
well,
got
you have
it,
one
check.
on now.
I
you
do.
Look beautiful.
I know. Thank goodness. The women are always like, it's just wonderful. It's so supportive there. Now, I was telling you, I was like, wow, how fitting that God organized such a meeting like this for you to be able to come on air. And what we want to encourage you to do is one of the biggest ways you can start showing up in our community is just to show up and get to know everyone by name instead of just walking past somebody else that's homeless. And here's what I encourage you to do. is ask God to highlight the people he wants you to speak to.
Yes.
And you will be amazed. All of a sudden you'll start passing somebody and God's like, go back. You need to go pray with that person. And one of the easiest ways is all you have to do is ask them this: is there anything you want me to pray with you about?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was at River Valley Church in Egan this Sunday, and I thought it was interesting because they brought up Matthew 9. But then they also brought up this one, which is Deuteronomy chapter 15, verses 7 through 11. If anyone is poor among your fellow community, right? And I'm going to preface this because it talks about Israel, but we're going to talk about it as our community. Do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted towards them. Rather, be open-handed and freely lend them whatever they need. And I think that when we talk about this, God is asking you to be open to whatever they need, because I know many of you have extra stuff sitting in your home, maybe too much stuff. Right? And I was talking about this with women over the weekend when we were at the Women's Summit. Many of us have been turning to something else instead of God to fill that void. And for some of you, that's stuff that's in your house.
That's right.
That extra stuff. And God actually commands you to be open-handed towards your fellow community who are poor and needy in our land. And that's right here in our city.
Yes. Yes.
They need it. And that's why, Danielle, I just love what you guys do.
Thank you. God does it. He's just using all of us to this. But I love the idea of cleaning out your closet, right? Because people think about this, looking for clothes for job interviews and looking for clothes to layer, and just whatever you have that you use, someone else can use it and you're not using it, right? Make it count. Get your money's worth and make someone happy. But give it out. Let go of it especially if you're not using it, because it really does make a difference to people experiencing homelessness.
Right. And part of that is you're going to bless someone else.
That's right.
And so sometimes we're so used to clinging on to something. And I just want you to think about this. Who else does God want you to bless with the extra stuff that you have?
That's right. There's one of my favorite verses is Luke 14:13 through 14. And it says, when you host a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind. And although they cannot repay you, you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. Help us throw a banquet. Everything that you have that you can donate, your time, your resources, your clothes, the things in your house, you are helping us throw a banquet for the people that Jesus calls us to throw a banquet for.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing that you can't give, right? When a lot of times when we think about giving, we think about money. We don't understand that most, especially now. I was talking with my team about the importance that we call every single person by name. And they know this. They live it out. They do that not only within our practice, they call it everyone, and they get to know every single person by name, whether they go to the store, they go to church, wherever they're at. And I was talking with my team about this, and I asked them, do you notice the difference? And they're like, wow, to see people brighten up, to see that. But what if we actually did that with every single person you pass on the street?
You change the game when you call someone by name, right? You really do. I mean, it means I see you. Like I see you. And so especially when you call someone experiencing homelessness by their name, they have their name tag on, and you're like, hi, John. And she'll say, hi, how are you? I've seen it. I've seen it. The testimonies that I've heard that have come from prayer, you can pray for us. You can pray for them. We can pray for each other. Like everything that happens in that convention center, God is in the center of. And everything, if you don't have anything physically to donate, you can donate your time, your kindness, your talent, your prayers. Have lunch with, sit down, come down and I encourage you to come down and have lunch with someone experiencing homelessness that you've never met. And I bet you will leave seeing a changed person, understanding that people are people and we all have a different path, but we're still human beings. We still have the same needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it reminds me so much of this. And many of us have hit the darkest moments in our lives. And many of us, I call those like unspeakable traumas, unspeakable moments. But as we talk about this, God has always promised to never leave us or forsake us.
That's right.
And when you know that God has already changed you in that matter and he helped you out or your family out during your darkest times, then he calls you to share that testimony with others. I was sharing this with a woman yesterday that I met a couple weeks ago at the Minneapolis Sculpture Garden Art Fair, which we sponsor. And so many times people are like, why do you sponsor all these things? I'm like, I'm here to meet people where they're at.
Right.
And I met this woman who became a model at 16. Her parents allowed her to go off to New York. Well, it wasn't modeling that she thought it was. She actually got roped into sex trafficking. And at first she didn't want to share that story with me. But when I said, look, as somebody else who went through rape, you need to report this. And she's like, I know, it's been on my heart. And I said, the people that did those things to you. And she's like, yep, it's demonic. It was satanic. And I said, then you need to stand up for it, but or else it just eats you away. And so many people that are out on the street, when you see somebody that has drug addiction, I want you to think about this. That was somebody else's child.
That's right. And
what trauma, unspeakable trauma did that person go through that they thought it was easier or and sometimes it wasn't that they chose drugs. It's because as part of that process in sex trafficking, they actually get drugged up, that they end up with an addiction that they never dreamed about, that they never thought about. It's like, I think about her. She never dreamed going to New York that she would be sex trafficked. Right. And then end up down this path. And she said, so many of the women that she was with, some of those people had already killed themselves because somebody else didn't reach out to them. And so I think about this. Each and every one of you were gifted by God to share your story, to share your testimony in order to help somebody else. And your story is always going to be a testimony for someone else. And God will. And what you'll be amazed about is God is going to find that person that needs to hear your testimony to change their life.
That's
in that room.
That's what he does. And he puts it together. You just have to be willing to share it because there's someone who needs to hear it, who you are supposed to share that person with. I love what you said earlier. I encourage you to pray, to say, God, who can you put in front of me? What do I have that they need? And you will have a guest who has a story like that, Kelly, that prayed that exact prayer. And the first man who sat in front of her to have his feet washed had the same name as their dad. And they kind of connected on that level. But the story, the testimony that comes after that is amazing. And she'll share that with you. But she prayed that prayer, put people in front of me, right? And she ended up sharing her testimony, and she shared it with us a couple of weeks ago, and it's powerful. So use your testimony. God gave it to you for a reason, and one of it is to share. So.
Absolutely. And always remember, your trial is going to be the greatest testimony of God's goodness to transform lives. And if you are looking to transform a life, go to codedinlove.org. That's codedinlove.org.
Thanks for listening to the Align and Abide podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.